What are your thoughts on the allegations against Jay-Z?
Those accusations are crazy. That was interesting. I was saying things not knowing exactly what I was saying, but I was going, where's Jay at? He's mad quiet. Like while the Puffy thing was going on. But it's obvious now that his team was being made aware that he was in those allegations also.
If Jay-Z would have did a song with Ja Rule,
he would have got it like everybody else. He stayed clear of that mother.
if Jay-Z
Yeah.
would have jumped on the track with Ja, you would have went at Jay? Honestly,
Who you think Jay-Z is? This is crazy. Look, there ain't nobody. I look and I go, oh, that's your big homie, right? And so he imaged himself after a gay painter. Your big homie want to look like a gay painter.
What are we talking about here?
We're talking about Basquiat. He wants to look like a gay painter.
The new lawsuit coming with Jay, the part with Jay. I go, oh shoot, like
To us, black excellence.
that had to be there.
We getting tighter, you know what I'm saying? And united we stand, and ain't nothing else.
Black excellence, they're sitting there like, yeah. It's the billionaire brunch. Like,
I hate you, man.
unaware of anything going on here. This is the one time I'm gonna be with you this year. Yeah. Come on, bro.
That's crazy. He deserved those.
I'm sitting there, he's like this, like Black excellence, they're sitting there like, yeah. It's the billionaire brunch. Like,
I hate you, man.
unaware of anything going on here. This is the one time I'm gonna be with you niggas this year. Come on, bro.
That's crazy.
Like, this guy's like what he says on these records. Like, what happens when he flips on Jennifer? And
so they scared him.
scared him off for the record, so they ended up like,
Puffy,
put
I
Nas,
get
put
that.
Nas. This is why even Jay was angry at Irv, because he was saying put Nas on the record.
Oh, and Jay and Nas were beefing at the time.
Well, he just won.
Imagine missing the biggest stage in music not because of talent, but because of behind-the-scenes power plays. That's the claim that sent shockwaves through hip-hop. In 2022, the Super Bowl 56 halftime show at SoFi Stadium was historic. A lineup stacked with legends like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar, with a surprise appearance by 50 Cent during the hip-hop-centric set. But despite that iconic moment, 50 Cent later claimed that he was almost kept off that same stage. The reason? According to him, when Jay-Z's entertainment company Roc Nation co-produced the halftime show in partnership with the NFL, there was an attempt to exclude him from the performance. 50 says Roc Nation didn't want me there, and that the situation was framed as an issue between him and the NFL, a claim he says wasn't true. Now, in 50's telling, it took a direct ultimatum from Eminem, who allegedly said he wouldn't perform without him, to secure his place in the show. That moment became more than just a song performance. It became the spark for one of hip-hop's most talked-about power debates, when corporate influence and artistic pride collide, and what happened next would shape decades of rivalry and speculation. February 13th, 2022. SoFi Stadium, Super Bowl 56. Over 100 million people watching worldwide. This wasn't just another halftime show, and it was hip-hop's coronation moment. The lineup was stacked: Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, and Eminem. Then it happened. Out of nowhere, hanging upside down from the ceiling like it was 2003 again, 50 Cent appeared performing in Da Club. The crowd exploded. Social media lost its mind. Memes flooded timelines within minutes. It was nostalgia done perfectly. But here's the twist. According to 50, that moment almost didn't happen. In multiple interviews years later, he claimed that there was resistance to him being included in the show. Not creative differences, not scheduling conflicts, resistance. And the name tied to that resistance? Jay-Z. Now remember, since 2019, Roc Nation has partnered with the NFL to co-produce the halftime show. That means Jay isn't just an artist, he's part of the decision-making process. He helps shape the stage. So when 50 suggested that Jay didn't want him there, it turned a performance into a power story. Because this wasn't about mic skills, it was about control. And if 50's version is accurate, or it took Eminem stepping in, allegedly telling organizers he wouldn't perform without 50, to lock that spot in. That changes everything. Because if true, that wasn't just a booking issue. That was a battle for the biggest spotlight in America. And to understand why that tension runs so deep, we have to rewind all the way back to 1999. Here's where the power shift becomes real. In 2019, the NFL announced a long-term partnership with Roc Nation. The deal gave the company a major role in producing and curating the Super Bowl halftime show. That meant creative control, artist selection input, cultural direction. And who founded Roc Nation? Jay-Z. Now, that doesn't mean Jay personally handpicks every performer, but it does mean he sits close to the decision table. And in an industry where proximity equals power, that matters. So when 50 Cent later claimed that Jay tried to keep him off the 2022 stage, it hit different. This wasn't street-level rap beef. This was boardroom territory. According to 50, Jay allegedly told key figures behind the show that he didn't want him included. The claim that he was being deliberately excluded. Then came the twist. 50 says Eminem stepped in and made it clear he wouldn't perform without him. If that ultimatum really happened, it shifts the entire narrative. Because now you're not talking about scheduling, you're talking about loyalty versus leverage. One artist using his clout to protect another. That's not small. And what makes it even louder? Jay never publicly addressed it. No denial, no clarification, no counterstatement, just silence. That silence fueled speculation online. Some saw it as class, and others saw it as confirmation. But this tension didn't start in 2022. It started decades earlier, when a hungry rapper from Queens decided to name-drop the entire industry in one reckless song. Before the Super Bowl, before Roc Nation, before billion-dollar deals. There was one reckless record. In 1999, a young rapper from Queens named 50 Cent dropped a track called How to Rob. It wasn't a love song. It wasn't a party anthem. It was a lyrical hit list. On the song, he imagined robbing nearly every major artist in the industry. And yes, Jay-Z was mentioned. It was bold, disrespectful, strategic, the kind of move that forces attention. DJs spun it heavy in New York. The streets talked. Suddenly, this unknown rapper was everywhere, simply because he had the nerve to challenge the top dogs. Most artists laughed it off. Jay didn't. Near Summer Jam 1999, Jay fired back with a slick line that would echo for years. "I'm about $1. What the fuck is 50 Cent?" Later, he polished the bar on It's Hot. It was dismissive, calculated, classic Jay wordplay. That moment lit the fuse. 50 didn't back down. He responded with Be a Gentleman, questioning Jay's authenticity and street credibility. The rivalry had officially started, but then something darker interrupted everything. In 2000, 50 was shot 9 times outside his grandmother's house in Queens. He survived, barely. His label dropped him. His debut album was shelved. For a moment, it looked like his career was over. While 50 recovered in silence, Jay's empire grew stronger. The tension didn't disappear, it just paused. And when 50 came back, he didn't just return. He detonated the industry. When 50 Cent came back, he didn't ease into the game, he stormed it. After surviving that near-fatal shooting and being dropped by Columbia Records, most artists would have disappeared. Instead, 50 rebuilt from the ground up. Mixtapes, street buzz, raw hunger. Then he caught the attention of Eminem and Dr. Dre. That cosign changed everything. In February 2003, Get Rich or Die Tryin' dropped, and the industry shook. Nearly 900,000 copies sold in its first week. In Da Club was unavoidable. Clubs, radio, MTV, it was dominance. Suddenly, 50 wasn't the reckless mixtape kid anymore. He was the biggest rapper in the world. And here's where it gets interesting. Jay-Z publicly acknowledged the shift. In interviews years later, he admitted he warned his team that 50 was coming fast and heavy. That's respect. But respect doesn't erase rivalry. By 2003 and 2004, they found themselves in a strange space, touring in similar circles, sharing commercial space, even appearing in campaigns around the same time. On the surface, it looked like competitive coexistence. Underneath, tension. Because this wasn't just about music anymore, 50 wasn't just outselling people, he was reshaping the culture. His G-Unit sneakers reportedly outsold Jay's S. Carter line at one point. His global reach exploded, and 50 made sure people knew it. Now, it wasn't just lyrical shots, it was market share. 2 self-made men from New York, 2 different approaches to power, both climbing fast. And when money enters the rivalry, things get colder. This is where it stops being about bars. Because once 50 Cent realized music fame wasn't enough, he started playing the same game as Jay-Z, but differently. In 2004, Ma 50 made one of the smartest moves in hip-hop business history. Instead of taking a flat endorsement fee from Vitamin Water's parent company Glacio, he took equity, ownership, a percentage. Then in 2007, Coca-Cola bought Glacio for $4.1 billion. Reports estimated 50 walked away with roughly $60 to $100 million. That wasn't a rap check, that was mogul money. Around that same period, Jay made his own massive move, selling the rights to Rocawear to Iconics brand group for over $200 million while retaining partial control. Both were winning, both were building empires. But 50 never missed a chance to frame his deal as smarter. He positioned himself as the guy who understood equity before it became trendy, the street entrepreneur who could match Jay's boardroom play. And then came 2007, the infamous sales war. Kanye West dropped Graduation on the same day 50 released Curtis. The battle became cultural. Who would win the week? Kanye outsold him. At the time, Jay-Z was serving as president of Def Jam, Kanye's label. That detail mattered to 50. He later suggested that behind-the-scenes influence may have played a role. Not proof, but suspicion. The idea that Jay didn't confront rivals directly. He moved pieces, played chess, and in 50's view, that pattern never changed. Fast forward years later to the Super Bowl. Now, the stakes weren't album sales, they were legacy moments. And when you believe someone has the power to quietly block you from history, that rivalry stops being competitive. It becomes personal. Just when people thought the rivalry couldn't get more layered, 50 Cent introduced a new angle: the Grammys. Over the years, Jay-Z has won 25 Grammy Awards, making him one of the most awarded rappers in history. That's legacy-level achievement. That's elite status. But 50 didn't treat it like untouchable territory. In multiple interviews, he suggested that Jay's Grammy dominance wasn't just about music. He implied it had something to do with image, with positioning, with evolution, and specifically with Beyoncé. Now, let's be clear, Jay had Grammy wins before publicly aligning with Beyoncé. But statistically, the majority of his awards came after the early 2000s. Around the same time his public persona shifted from street hustler to polished mogul and family man. That's the point 50 kept circling. He argued that the Recording Academy tends to reward a certain image: safe, corporate-friendly, elevated. He even referenced how legendary artists like Tupac Shakur never won a Grammy despite massive cultural impact. To 50, it wasn't jealousy, it was politics. He positioned himself as the outsider willing to say what others won't, the guy pulling back the curtain. Whether people agree or not, that narrative gained traction because it fits into a bigger theme. Jay represents calculated power, institutional acceptance, the polished evolution of hip-hop into boardrooms. 50 represents confrontation, disruption, the raw edge that refuses to smooth out. And when you look back at the Super Bowl situation through that lens, it feels less like an isolated booking issue and more like a clash of philosophies. At this point, it's bigger than a halftime show. It's bigger than a Grammy count. It's about two completely different ways of holding power. 50 Cent thrives in the open. He posts, he jokes, he trolls. If he feels slighted, he says it. Loud. Interviews, Instagram captions, podcast clips. He turns tension into content and content into currency. Conflict fuels him. Jay-Z moves the opposite way. No clapbacks, no long explanations. He rarely addresses beef publicly. He lets lawyers, partnerships, and strategy do the talking. When controversy hits, he doesn't tweet through it. He absorbs it. That contrast is the real story. 50 once described Jay as someone who avoids direct confrontation, that he moves pieces instead of swinging punches. In 50's world, that's weakness. In corporate America, that's discipline. So when the Super Bowl blocking allegations surfaced, fans split into two camps. One side said, Jay is a gatekeeper. He controls platforms. He decides who shines. The other side said, that's what leadership looks like. Not every artist gets the stage. And here's what makes it fascinating. Neither man actually loses. 50 stays culturally loud. He trends, he stirs conversation, his TV empire grows, his brand thrives off disruption. Jay stays institutionally powerful. NFL deals, billion-dollar valuation, cultural diplomacy. He plays the long game. It's gladiator versus emperor. One rules the arena, the other rules the empire. And the Super Bowl controversy didn't create that dynamic. It exposed it. But if this is a 25-year chess match, who's really winning? If the business arguments weren't enough, 50 Cent took it somewhere even more personal. He didn't just question Jay-Z's decisions, he questioned his image. Over the past few years, Mob 50 has openly mocked Jay's evolution. From street rapper to art gallery mogul, he joked that Jay was copying the aesthetic of Jean-Michel Basquiat, referencing the free-form hair and high art persona. To some, it was harmless trolling. To others, it was a deeper jab at authenticity. Then came the album critiques. When Jay released 444, many praised it as mature and introspective. 50, he called it golf course music. In his view, Jay had moved too far from the raw edge that built him. Too polished, too elite, too far removed from the streets. But here's the irony. Both men started in the same kind of struggle. Brooklyn projects, Queens hustle, survival mode. They built empires from nothing. The difference is how they chose to evolve. Jay leaned into refinement, business partnerships, art circles, corporate alliances. 150 leaned into confrontation, transparency, controlled chaos. And every time 50 posts a meme or makes a sarcastic comment, it isn't just comedy, it's strategy. Because in the age of social media, image is currency. And if you can chip away at someone's image, you chip away at their influence. But despite all the jabs and the Super Bowl claims, the Grammy theory, the style critiques, Jay still hasn't publicly responded. And that silence keeps raising one uncomfortable question. Is ignoring the noise the smartest move of all? Jay-Z hasn't responded. Not to the Super Bowl blocking claim, not to the Grammy theory, not to the style jokes. Nothing. And in today's culture, silence isn't neutral. It's strategic. When 50 Cent goes on record saying Jay tried to keep him off the Super Bowl stage, you'd expect some type of clarification, a denial, and a statement, something. Instead, business as usual. Roc Nation continues its NFL partnership. Corporate sponsors stay locked in. The empire doesn't flinch. That steadiness sends a message. This isn't big enough to disrupt the machine. But silence has a side effect. It leaves room for 50's version to dominate the conversation. Because if one person keeps talking and the other never counters, the public naturally leans toward the louder voice. Not always because it's true, but because it's visible. Some fans see Jay's quiet approach as maturity. Why argue publicly when you're operating at billionaire-level influence? Others see it differently. They ask, if it's not true, why not shut it down? That tension keeps the narrative alive. Meanwhile, 50 continues to frame himself as the outsider calling out gatekeeping. He positions Jay as the corporate chess player moving pieces behind closed doors. And the Super Bowl becomes symbolic. It's not just about one performance, it represents access. Who gets the spotlight? Who controls it? And who decides? Because when culture meets corporate power, the fight isn't always on stage. Sometimes it's in the boardroom. At this point, it's not even about one halftime show anymore. It's about legacy. 50 Cent built his brand on confrontation. From how to rob to Instagram trolling, he's always been the disruptor. If there's tension, he amplifies it. If there's drama, he monetizes it. He thrives in chaos. That's his edge. Jay-Z built his empire on restraint, strategic partnerships, billion-dollar valuations, long-term positioning. He rarely reacts publicly. He absorbs the noise and keeps moving forward. That's his edge. Two New York Titans. Same origin story, opposite philosophies. One believes power should be visible and loud. The other believes power works best when it's quiet. And here's what makes this rivalry timeless. Neither man has fallen. 50 turned street credibility into TV dominance with the Power franchise. He flipped controversy into leverage. He proved he could build outside of music. Jay turned rap success into corporate influence, NFL partnerships, art auctions, global business moves. He proved he could transcend music. So when 50 claims Jay tried to block him from the Super Bowl, it doesn't just feel like beef. It feels like two different definitions of power colliding. Is Jay protecting the brand, or gatekeeping the culture? Is 50 exposing something, or just keeping his name hot? And the truth probably lives somewhere in between. But here's the real takeaway. For 25 years, they've been testing each other. Musically, financially, culturally. Not to destroy, but to dominate. And if history tells us anything, this chess match isn't over. It just evolves. Here's the bigger question nobody wants to ask out loud. In 2025, who actually controls hip-hop? Is it the artist with the loudest voice, or the mogul with the biggest contracts? 50 Cent still dominates headlines without dropping an album. One interview clip, one meme, one sarcastic post, and the entire internet reacts. That's cultural power. He understands attention better than almost anyone in the game. He knows controversy travels faster than music. But Jay-Z operates on a different level. He doesn't need to trend daily. His influence is built into infrastructure. The NFL partnerships, corporate boards, billion-dollar deals. When you sit at that level, you're not fighting for attention. You're shaping access. And that's where the Super Bowl allegation hits hardest. Because if Jay truly has influence over who gets that stage, then that's more than business. That's gatekeeping at the highest level of American entertainment. The halftime show isn't just a concert, it's a global spotlight. But here's the flip side. Every major event needs structure. Not everyone can perform. Decisions get made. And when you're the one making them, someone will always feel left out. So maybe this isn't villain versus victim. Maybe it's evolution versus disruption. One man built the system, the other challenges it loudly. And the culture watches both, because at the end of the day, hip-hop has always been about competition. But now the competition isn't just about bars, it's about power. After 25 years, here's the wild part. Neither of them lost. 50 Cent is still relevant, still loud, still trending whenever he decides to speak. He turned street credibility into television dominance. He flipped controversy into capital. Every time his name enters the conversation, the internet reacts. Jay-Z is still untouchable at the corporate level. Billionaire status, NFL partnerships, boardroom influence. He doesn't argue online. He doesn't defend himself publicly. He moves quietly and lets the empire speak. So what is this rivalry really about? It's not just about the Super Bowl. It's not just about Grammys. It's not even about old diss tracks. It's about two different versions of success. 50 represents confrontation. Say it out loud. Stir the pot. Keep the culture hot. Jay represents calculation. Build infrastructure. Protect the brand. Play the long game. Streets versus suits. Noise versus silence. Immediate reaction versus strategic patience. And here's the truth. Hip-hop needs both. The disruptor keeps the game honest. The architect keeps the game stable. So when 50 accuses Jay of blocking him and Jay refuses to respond, what you're really witnessing isn't petty drama. It's a 25-year chess match between two men who mastered power in completely different ways. And if history is any guide, this Cold War isn't ending anytime soon. It's just entering the next round.